Okay guys, it's nighttime obviously, and very dark out here in the desert. Don't know if you can see the horizon. Probably won't come out in the video, but yeah, it's pitch black out here. My lights are the only light around. So where we're headed to is a geographical feature called Murder Gulch, which is right here in front of me. You can see some tires over there. And the gulch goes down here, and in front of me here, where my light is over there, is a huge hill, and those go all the way down there for a few miles. But what's interesting about so-called Murder Gulch is three miners back in the 1880s or 90s, three brothers, had a claim down here, and they were mining for gold, I guess. And one night, somebody drove up in here on a horse, and some kind of outlaw, and murdered the three brothers while they were sleeping. Now, they each had a separate cabin not too far down here. We'll check those three out. A lot of miners did that back in the day. They built their cabins right outside the mine's portal to be right next to it. But why these brothers would choose to mine down here in this ravine is beyond me. But right straight ahead is the mine tunnel. You can see it there in my light. So that's where we're headed, and their cabins are a little further down. There's one right there. I probably can't see it, but we're going to check all this out. So the three brothers got murdered, and the outlaw that killed them looted what he could, stole what he could, what they had on them, or hidden in their cabins or in the mine, and took off and was never apprehended. And some say that the three brothers, their ghost is still haunts this mine that they were mining before they got murdered in their sleep. Apparently it was a gunshot to the head on each of them. And the cabins are pretty close together, that you'll see later on here. So the murderer just went from cabin to cabin pretty quickly and used his gun. So I don't know how extensive this mine is. It's probably not that extensive, but they were working it nonetheless. So let's go check it out. It's right up here. See it there? Okay, so there's the hill. We just came down into what's called Murder Gulch, and we're right here at the entrance. So let's go check this out. A little bit of erosion going on here. Typical of most abandoned mines. And there is a door frame here. Apparently there was a door on here at one time. And you can see all the rocks here that this goes through here in the arch. And then some boards down here, that, probably from the door. Ah, there's ore cart tracks in here, I think. So maybe this wasn't such a small mine after all. Maybe these three brothers were onto something, which would help explain why they got murdered. Yeah, see that wooden board? I think that might be ore cart tracks. Yep, here's the other one on the right. Now, what's missing is the metal strapping that would have been attached on top of there. You can see the nails, or the nail holes where the metal strapping would have been attached. And that was the cheaper way of putting in ore cart tracks instead of using regular steel tracks. And so being that these three brothers were probably a small-time operation, so that's why they used the wooden ore cart tracks. It was cheaper. They probably did it themselves, to be quite honest. So here's the first timbered arch. Well, all of this is timbered actually all the way down. Now, they only timbered in areas where it was prone to collapse. So even though it's cool to see all this timbering, it means you're entering dangerous ground because it's unstable. So pretty much a straight shot here. Oh, here's a, check that out. That board is sagging. And that's why they timbered here, because they knew this was very crumbly. I mean, a lot of these boulders look like they're ready to come down at any minute. On both sides here, just a jumble of boulders. Some boulders came down there, probably from right there, I bet. So, wow, these are all hand stacked rocks. They call this gobbing when they stack the rocks up like this. It was cheaper to do it this way rather than haul them outside, which was very labor intensive. And so that's what they did. So let's just hope these three brothers knew what they were doing and this won't all collapse in on us. Check out how neatly stacked the rocks are in that wall going all the way down there. See that? Let me zoom in a little bit. That's pretty impressive. Oh, got a bat flying towards me. Okay, it's looking kind of sketchy up here. A lot of rock fall on the ground. And I'm seeing something white way down there, like a big white board or something. I don't know what that is. So, typical example here of mixed timbering. Here's a cut piece of lumber for the cross piece, but the two supports are just tree trunks. Another sign that this was a low budget operation. Look at this one. You've got cut timber there and on top, but a tree trunk on the right. Yeah, do you see that white thing down there? Let me zoom in. See it hanging down from the ceiling? I think that's a big board. Let's go check it out. Okay, that's looking back the way we came. I'm probably about, I don't know, 150 feet in, something like that, maybe 200. But we're going to keep going down here and checking out what this board is hanging from the ceiling. Look at how nice these walls are on both sides. This has been here for, what, almost 150 years, if not longer. Still holding up beautifully. Some sagging here, but that's to be expected. Okay, what happened here? Looks like a board broke. Wow, there's a lot of timbers up in there. This must have been a really bad spot. And look, there's timber there, tree trunk, one right there. I see some boards up behind those rocks. But this right here at my feet came from up in there. So let me carefully get past this without bumping it. Wow, look at these timbers in the ceiling there, sagging. Don't know if that's coming out in the video, but they are bending. All four of them. All these are. Look here, they put some cross pieces perpendicular to the two side pieces. That's interesting. This must be a really dangerous area, prone to collapse. Okay, looks like we're coming to the end of the timbering. That means the rock is changing. And we're entering another geological strata that's not as crumbly as all this. So that's a good thing. Yeah, here you can see some of the metal strapping on the ore cart tracks. See that there? And if you notice, my voice has suddenly changed and has a lot more reverberation because we are in a totally different layer of rock that's not prone to collapse. Here's a little alcove. Wow, this is pretty amazing. Very smooth, the walls of the drift here. It says 340 feet. That's probably about right. It's been a straight shot all the way, no bends. So, to be honest, I wasn't expecting this mine to be that much because the three brothers were working it, you know, a small time operation. I figured maybe just be like a 150-foot tunnel, but this just keeps going. Here you can see some cross tie remnants from the tracks with the notches they would use for the boards that had the metal strapping on them. See that? Here's a whole bunch of them in succession. Wow, this just keeps going. I did not expect this to be this extensive. I think that says 1890. That's probably the year. Somebody left the year. Looks like the 8 got a little erased there, but that's not 1590, that's 1890. Those are all made with a carbide lamp. The miners worked with carbide lights on their helmets, and they would use those to burn their initials and dates and other things onto the drift tunnel walls. Well, here we've picked up the tracks. They are still in place. Yeah, usually in these abandoned mines, the ore cart tracks nearest the entrance get removed first and used elsewhere. So it makes sense that the complete tracks would still be present further in the mine than they are at the entrance. So you can see here the wooden boards with the metal strapping attached. Pretty cool, pretty old, and pretty cheap. Okay, it looks like it's still a straight shot, a little bit of a bend, but not a turn or anything like that. Up here I can see. Yeah, these ore cart tracks are really in good shape, really well preserved. Okay, there might be a turn up here, or maybe it's the end. Well, it's the end of the tunnel. Look at that. Ben Gates. And that was one of the brothers. And C.F. Knutson, 1949. St. Clair Gate, 1849. Look at that. Wow. Must have been another one of the brothers. And if that's as far as they went, then that's as far as they got before they got murdered. Well, let's head back. So basically, this was just one long straight shot. They were obviously mining what was in this type of rock because they timbered the first part, and then once they got to this, they just kept going straight. So they obviously were chasing something in this rock. These are either silver or gold mines. I want to say gold, but I'm not sure. I'll have to research that some more. But that's looking back towards the portal. Well, I'm back where the timbering starts as I'm making my way out of this mine. So let's go check out the 3 cabins. What's interesting about the cabins is one is still standing. The second one is partially caved in, and the third one has no roof at all whatsoever. So let's go check it out. And making my way through this crumbly, unstable area. And yeah. Okay, the mine entrance is right there where my light is. And here is the first cabin of one of the brothers. I'm sitting right in what's probably the doorway. This wall has collapsed, but you can see the back wall there, and there would have been a window right there, it looks like. And there's the other wall, and then here's the other wall coming up to where the doorway was. So this one is totally missing its roof. Now, I was always under the impression that when they built a foundation like this for a cabin, they would put a canvas tent over the top as a roof. I think that's how some miners did it. But these guys, as you'll see in the other two cabins, which are further down Murder Gulch this way, they actually had wooden roofs with tin plating on them. So either they used canvas roofs or they actually built a wooden roof with metal plating on it, depending on probably how well off they were. But we're going to continue down this way. There's the mine again. And check out the other two cabins. So far, no signs of any ghosts of these three guys getting murdered, but you never know. Okay, the cabin's right up here. This one still has a roof, but it's all collapsed. So there's the roof with the tin plating on it. A lot of the times they just used the sides of like metal containers that contained oil or whatever, and they would take those apart and break them down into 4 pieces and use those for the shingles. But you can see the wooden support beams for the roof, and there's the stacked rock walls, and that one's about the same size as the one we just came from, and but there's part of the roof. To be honest, this is the first time I've seen a roof on one of these stacked stone foundations. Usually it's just the foundations that are left, and that's it. If you've seen enough of my videos, you'll see that there's never any roofs left on these foundations, but not here. Yeah, here's a side shot of that partially collapsed cabin. Looks like there was that little cutout in the roof, might have been for a window or a vent maybe. But yeah, and the first cabin is just over that little rise here in Murder Gulch. But the last cabin is right up here. I think you can see it now. Let's go check it out. Well, here's the third and last cabin of the Gates brothers. One of them got murdered in here while he lay sleeping. Yeah, that little opening, like we saw in the second cabin, was for a window or a vent. You can see it right there. So that's what that was. Oh, there's some birds. Oh, some birds are nesting in here. I just woke them up. So this would have been the door. Kind of a narrow door. Look at all those birds up in there. Good place to roost in an old miner's cabin. So right over there was probably a window. The roof's kind of sagging downward. And the roof's kind of collapsing there too. But you can see the corner there where my light is. And there's the back wall. It also had a vent or a window. See that up there where my light is? Yeah, these are just from old oil cans or whatever. So I just noticed outside this third and last cabin in the ground here, look at that. There's a void. I see some rodent droppings down there. That goes down about a foot or two. Same thing right here. So I don't know what this is. It looks like unstable ground. So maybe this was like perhaps this is where they hid their gold or their money. Some kind of underground chamber. Look at that. Right there it goes down. That's pretty cool. You can see here too it goes in. Right where my light is there. That's just right in front of the cabin. See that? So that might have been a place where they hid their gold, and that the murderer probably ransacked. But I'm not going to step on that because I don't want it to break. Who knows how far down that goes. So that was the tour of Murder Gulch and the mine of the Gates brothers, and a murder scene from the 1880s or 1890s. And I don't know about you, but I didn't notice any ghosts or hear any ghosts. So that's it.